What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Truck Park Clubhouse. I'm your host, Michael Lombard. Glad to have you guys here. Hope you're having a great weekend, whether it's a long weekend, whether you're over the road, whether you're at home. Appreciate you tuning out. If you haven't checked your inbox yet, just dropped Taillights issue number 53. It's in your inbox. We go into a little bit of detail about a new little piece of enforcement for brokers out there with their security bond and all that good stuff. So something brokers will be held liable for. But it doesn't quite get to the answers a lot of drivers have been talking about, as well as some other news updates, some throwbacks, great health tip for you, kick off the year. But that just dropped in your inbox. And if you're not subscribed to Taillights, and it could be in your spam folder, you might have to check it out. But without any further delay, if you've been following us on social media, you've been seeing we've got ourselves a sick piece of equipment, and we're ready to bring it up onto the clubhouse. And owner operator Chad Keegan, friend of the show, friend of the company, is going to give us a freaking walkthrough of this beast. What's happening?
Not just hanging out. How about you?
Not too much. I'm excited to take a gander at what the piece of equipment you got behind you. For anybody who's jumping in live, I mean, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us. What do we got back there? How did that thing wind up behind you?
That is a 1978 International Transstar. The last time I was at the clubhouse, actually, the first time I was at the clubhouse, you were here. And it was the first time I'd ever been here. And we were just sitting around BSing. And next thing you know, Evan says, "We're looking for a Cabover." And I said, "I can find you a Cabover." He says, "You can find one?" I said, "Yeah, there's a ton up by my house." So I started showing him some pictures and said, it was a Wednesday. I said, "Listen, I'm delivering this load Thursday. Let me go home, relax for a day. And then Friday, I'll start looking for you one." I seen this one online on a Facebook Marketplace. So I messaged the guy, gave him my phone number. Gentleman called me that owned it because somebody else had posted for him, one of the people that worked for him. So I talked to him for a little bit. And then I made a phone call to Hunter to see if they were interested in it because I was, dealing with Evan and Hunter at the time. And then he said, "Yeah." And so I called the guy back and I said, "I'll come over tomorrow morning. Can you do that?" He says, "I got some Christmas stuff at noon. Can you be there? What time can you come?" I said, "I'll be there at 8." So I went over with 8 with Cash and sat there and kind of talked to him about it, got the history of the truck, and then did a little YouTube shoot with him. And then I basically made him an offer and paid for the truck. He signed the title over to me. I took the title home. I left the truck there. And then Monday I went back and got it and drove it to my house in Ohio. It was about 2 hours away. It was in Muncie, Indiana. It was built originally in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the International Harvester plant. It went down to Muncie, Indiana to work in a gravel pit. So it spent its first few years of its life there. And then they sold it to a farmer who owned it for about 20 years. And then his buddy ended up acquiring it. That's who I got it from. So the truck basically lived all its life in Muncie, Indiana, besides being built in Fort Wayne. And it was nothing but a local truck. It had 133,000 original miles on it. So when I drove it home for the first time, it was the first time it had been on the interstate since it was probably chucked down there. So it was kind of interesting because the tires were old and the DOT was bad on them. But I mean, I drove it. I really couldn't go too fast because the truck shook a lot and it smelled horrible, like a mouse, and its whole family had lived in there. But I took it home, talked to the guys about it. We got a group chat going on, and I just kind of, was saying some things, and I'm like, "Yeah, these steer tires are from 2015. We should probably get them changed, because you don't want something to go blow on you when I'm driving, because that could tear a lot of stuff up, a steer tire. Not to mention that could put me in the ditch or into somebody else. And then, the drives were DOT'd from 2002 and 2003, and they're like, we don't want to do them right now." And I said, "I understand, but I did get the steers taken care of up north before I drove it down to the clubhouse." So the truck basically sat at my house for about a week or two over Christmas and New Year's. And then I basically went through the interior, cleaned it up a little, the best I could, because there were some panels hanging down and there was a hole right above my head that there was mouse crap and all kinds of debris falling down. So I did what I could for that, buttoned it up. And then right after the first of the year, I drove it down And Reed and Noah and Tracy just freaked out when I pulled in. It took me about 10 hours to get down here. It's about an 8-hour drive. It's about 530 miles. And I basically went 58 the whole time because every time I'd go over 60, the thing would just start rattling so bad. And I thought, man, it's what it is. But I knew the tires were bad, so we got new drives ordered and new rims because these are Dayton rims that's on this truck, and they're 1020s, and they're split wheels. And if you don't know what that is, it's a tube tire, basically what you see like on the container chassis with the 5 spokes. And those are not good, and a lot of people don't want to deal with them. And just having something go wrong with those rims, if we would have kept that style and just got new ones on there, it would have been a nightmare for somebody else if we're driving it to a show or whatever, they want to do with the truck once I'm done with it. So we got the proper 22 size rims. That way, if something goes wrong, and we got 8 brand new drives, 22 5s, that way, if something goes wrong, they're tubeless. Anybody can come and just swap one out. It's not a big deal. But I drove it down here on the Saturday. They rented me a car, and I went back home and basically packed my stuff. And then I came back down on Wednesday night. I got down here probably like 10:30 and pulled it in the shop and just basically unloaded all my stuff. And then at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I ended up passing out because I had so much stuff to unload and whatnot. And then I started Thursday morning working on it. So I've been down here for, God, I think it's been over a week. Thursday will be 2 weeks. I've been basically living out of Frank because I have a memory foam mattress in that, and I've got all the amenities that I need at the clubhouse that's in here. I don't need really anything. I can DoorDash food. I can buy groceries if I need to because there's a fridge up there with a kitchen. So for me to come and be able to stay down here and build this truck for them is awesome. Not to mention I basically have the shop to myself. So this is basically my casa. You know what I mean?
Which quick plug for that. So for anybody who's tuning in, Chad said this is the Truck Parking Clubhouse, our live stream. He's at the clubhouse right now, which is right off I-75 in Ringgold, Georgia. So he just listed off the amenities. So if you need truck parking literally in Georgia, you can go see this in person, by the way. But he just listed some amenities we've got there in case you're in need of something and need some truck parking in Ringgold. He just listed off what he's been doing, what he's up to. You got to pull this apart with the truck. You met the guy with it, so it's crazy. So it worked in a gravel yard, and but you said the owner, it's on Facebook Marketplace. Where did I'm trying to think. So I mean, it's only had 100,000 miles on it. What would be? I'm assuming it was the tires, but what's underneath the hood?
Oh, it's the build sheet. I have a friend that works at the dealership in Defiance, and he's the one who state inspects the trucks for me all the time because this isn't my first Cabover I bought out of state. Unfortunately, every Cabover I've ever bought and owned has been out of state. So I go up to Defiance truck sales, and my guy Todd hooks me up, and I'm like, hey, can you see if you can pull a build sheet? He's like, yeah, give me a second. Next thing you know, he pulls the line sheet. He says, I'm going to make your day. And it's usually the $300. So he pulls it. It says it's a 290 Cummins on the build sheet, but the owner I bought it from said it was a 350. Now, if anybody's familiar with 290s, there's no aftercooler on it. It looks like a manifold on the side, just like the exhaust on the other side of the engine where the aftercooler goes for the engine. So it's got one on there. So who knows if it was rebuilt at some time and bumped up to a 350, because the only thing I've seen with the aftercooler on it was like industrial 290. So I'm not sure. There's no engine tag on it. For some odd reason it's missing, so I don't know what's going on, but I do have I did match the engine number that's stamped on the engine block with the build sheet. So I think I may call up Cummins to see, what they could have done to this and what it truly is, because it drives just like my blue truck, which is a 350 big cam. So, I mean, it's a mystery because the tag's missing, but I mean, the engine numbers match up. They could have changed the top half out sometime. Somebody did do some a paint job on it. It was originally red, but somebody had painted it one time, and I do believe they went over the frame too. But buddy, I'm telling you what, there's so much grease under this truck, and unfortunately, it was owned by farmers, and it was kind of neglected because it spent most of its life in a barn. It didn't really get the show or scenes that it would because it was out in the middle of the country. And you know, when you have a truck out in the middle of the country, nobody sees it unless they're local and drives by it, or they made a wrong turn. So the truck, for what I got it for and what the purpose is going to be used for these guys, it's going to be great exposure for the truck because it deserves that. It's a very nice truck. It's well put together. It's a solid truck. I've already went through and started doing some mechanical things to it because it had the pinion seal on the front axle was leaking on the front side and the back side. And I believe that could have been from the vibration from the tires throwing the drive shafts off, not to mention the breather tubes that are on the back, which I can take you over and show you in a little bit, were clogged up with gunk. And anytime that those axles can't breathe, they're just going to try and push out fluids anywhere they can. So they're blowing out seals and stuff like that. So I've changed those. That was the first thing I did. And then I pulled it out and pressure washed it, tried to get some of the 50-year-old, if you will, close to 50-year-old grease off the bottom because, man, it was full. It looked like somebody had just threw a greaser gun onto it and just let that baby pump from a 55-gallon jug and went outside and took a break and come back half hour later and it was caked all over the place. Not to mention, I feel like I'm still pulling mud from when it was at the rock quarry off of the bottom. But I mean, I'm trying to clean up the chassis and frame because I'm going to be painting that. I'm going to be painting the engine, and I'll also be painting the cab also. So there's a lot of work to do, but I mean, you can see right now it's pretty much stripped down. There's a few things on the cab I still need to take off before I can sand it down all the way, like the grill, the international plating down the sides and the headlights. But I've got cab clearance lights off, the visors off, all of the handrails are off, the little air vents that are in the front, which are nice because, you know, you need some air breathing if you're trucking down the road in the middle of summertime, blowing on your legs and stuff because you're sitting on top of the engine. So it's going to be extremely hot. Not to mention it's got that baby crap brown shag carpet still in it, which is going to get pulled because there's no reason to have that down here because that's nothing but a heat trap. Now, when I was up north driving the truck down here, it was extremely warm and comfortable inside of that truck. There's only one spot for your feet, so you kind of got to keep them over towards the throttle to keep them warm. But other than that, it was decent. There's heater vents up here and stuff above your head and just all over in the truck. So, but I mean, it runs great. It shifts great. It's a 13-speed Eaton transmission with, it's got 444 rear ends, which are kind of tall. But for the size of the engine with those rear ends, it does really well. I probably had it to 72, maybe 74 a couple times going down some of the grades when I was bringing the truck down on the trip. But I didn't really try to go too crazy because as soon as I would get over like 58, 60, I was just shaking all over the place. And you can't maintain highway speed like that when you're bouncing all over. It's just not gripping and grabbing like it's supposed to.
Dude, let's go. When you had mentioned how this truck deserves to be on the road, deserves to be seen by other people. Number one, that'll tug at the heartstrings of anybody. How many of those model trucks do you think are there any of that truck still driving out there, you think?
I don't necessarily see them working, if you will, but I do see them occasionally at shows. Maybe like if, say, we're taking this truck to Matt's, we're going to take it to Matt's and we're going to be seen at Matt's. It's going to be outside by a booth for the truck parking club that everybody can see and come and look at and see what I did to it. I revived the truck. I'm doing the revival on it. Maybe 5 or 6 will be there, but if you go to a smaller show, you may see one if you're lucky, and there goes the lights because sometimes they kick off on me, so I'm sorry about that, but it's what it is. You can still see Frank glowing in the background.
Oh, I can see both perfectly clearly. Cool. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's a super like clean. I would say it's like a diamond in the rough, you know, and that's what I told the guys. It was right before Christmas when I bought it, and I said, I feel like the Grinch who just stole Christmas because we got the truck. The guy had listed it for 11,500, and then he had dropped it down to 7,500, and I got him a little bit lower than that. So I said, you guys got a steal of a deal. You know, I bought the truck and then basically sold it to them that way because I was buying it for them. I just paid for it so I could get it for them.
You brokered it.
It's their truck.
You had brokered the deal.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, and I do YouTube, so I like to mess with people because that's the kind of guy I am, and I don't like to give away too many secrets and just spill all. So I told everybody I bought it, and I just pretty much played along. And then I said, I have a customer. I have some friends that are going to be buying it, and everybody thought it was certain people, and nobody knew I was coming here, which was funny because I always put the little overlay in the corner at the truck parking club, like that's on the top corner here. And nobody got it until I pulled in. And then some people are like, who are these people? And I said, well, I guess you should Google them and find out because they just got a sweet truck.
Man, that's awesome. I was wondering what the guy who was selling it, what was his reason for wanting to get rid of it?
He had like 5 or 6 trucks, and this was just a spare truck, and he didn't want it sitting around. I don't know. Maybe they just thought it was just wasting, taking up space, and they wanted some money. They wanted some extra money to buy something else. You know how it is when you got extra things sitting around you're not using. Like I've got a truck that's just sitting in the driveway right now that, I mean, it's my backup truck. I could sell it, yes, and just have one truck and not have to worry about it. But it is nice just in case I need it. If something catastrophic happens with Frank, God forbid, knock on wood, I can go back and jump in that truck. They'll want to know because it's a spring ride truck. And it's definitely not as comfortable as Frank, and it's not as roomy either. And I prefer to drive that truck because I have more room and it's comfortable. But regardless, either way, both my trucks are set up for me in my comfort. This has the original Eldorado. Well, I don't know if it's the original Eldorado seat, but it is an Eldorado seat. And then it's got a jump box seat on the other side. So let's do a quick walk around. You want to?
Yeah, let's do it. I was going to say you've been putting in some work on it. You're saying it's probably going to make it down to Matt's.
Oh, it's going to make it down to Matt's. I'm not leaving this place. The truck is going to sit like this. It's up on jack stands right now. It's got 6-ton jack stands. So that's you do the math because I'm not going to right now. I'm too busy. But yeah, it's sitting right there like that. The truck is probably maybe 16,000 full diesel, so I think it's okay. Plus I had it up on these for 3 or 4 days when all the tires and rims were on it, but I can't climb up in the truck, but I can open the doors so you can get a view of that that baby shag carpet I was talking about. You see that?
That says 70s all over it.
Yeah, the interior is really nice. You see that little white dot up there on the top?
Mm-hmm.
That is where that mouse crap would fold down. Now, I took this panel off because when I was doing pulling the mirrors off and stuff, it was right back here. I needed to see that. Besides, I need to do some work to the panels on there. And I've already sanded one spot right here on the truck where I've started to sand it. Now, I'm not going to sand this down to bare because I want to make sure that everything sticks when I do paint it. I'm just basically doing a scuff and shoot with a single stage, probably enamel because that's just something that's easy. I painted Frank in the driveway of my house last summer, and that's what I used. I used a silver metallic, which that's one of the hardest things to paint with, and that was my first time doing it. So I think this is going to turn out really good being one solid color, and I don't know if you can tell what color it's going to be, but it's going to be looking like it's a truck parking club truck. So we got the steer tires. I took them off. Noah's come over Saturday with me, and we took those off because there was just so much grime under here, back in here, around here, that even when I pressure washed it, the stuff wouldn't come off. Let me grab a little light really quick. That way, when I'm in the darker spots, I can kind of show you some things. But let's go over and I'll show you some of the things. I've already hit a couple of spots on the frame where it needed to have. There was a wet kit that was on this. The tank is right over there. It says Muncie right on it. So it must have been a Muncie situation, but hopefully you guys don't get too dizzy. I still left the PTO pump on here because I need to get that tank off and then see if I can get a plate to cover it. But there's the engine. All that paint's faded off, but it was originally red. So that's going to get painted back red because I've got some paint for it. And then I'm going to shoot the frame black. There's one of the seals that's been replaced. It got a new U-joint also. And then back here, that one was replaced. And then this, we just took the fifth wheel off today. Me and Noah and Reed did. I pretty much did a lot of the stuff, and then they kind of helped me out. Here's these old school Daytons that are on here. This one spins freely, so I got to tell the boys to be careful that way. If they put their foot up on it or something like that, they don't just fall down.
Yeah,
but here's here's the breather tube I was talking about. These were full of gunk earlier. So I basically took them off, sprayed them with brake cleaner and whatnot. And then I, just made sure they cleaned out and they were free. But I mean, you can still see some of that gunk in there. Maybe, can you see that?
Yeah.
See all that garbage in there?
Built up pretty good.
Dude, the stuff was rock hard, man. I literally for 3 days, I was under that truck scraping grease and stuff like that. And I pressure washed it twice. And some of that stuff didn't get off, but brake cleaner does help get that stuff off. And like that nut that was on the back of that pinion seal was a straight pain in the butt. It literally took me like 6 hours to get that thing off. I could not get that thing to break free. I had to have Noah take me to Harbor Freight so I could get a bigger gun, because I've got a 1-inch gun that's for tires, but the anvil was too big, and this little mini quarter shaft right here, if you will, was just in the way. And I'm like under here, the fifth wheel plate was still on, and I'm banging my elbow on this thing, and it was just really hard to get to. So finally I got it to break free. So I replaced the seal there, which it doesn't have a splash guard on it. So, but this guy was gunked up too right here. So I took them both off and cleaned them. So it should be good. But I mean, for what it is, the frame looks pretty decent. Here's some stuff that's still built up around here that I need to get. But all this stuff, I scraped like all this crap off earlier because it was just so bad. And honestly, the floor, I like every day I stop what I'm doing and I clean up at the end of the day, because I don't like to work in a mess, and I'm not a messy guy. Even though I'm a truck driver, I keep my stuff as clean as possible, because, you go through a scale and you're dirty. They're going to think, oh, this guy doesn't take care of his stuff. He's probably got some problems going on. Let's pull him in. Not the case here, so we're keeping it clean. But I took this
good
off.
Healthy habits right there. Good healthy habits. OTR.
Yeah, it's just something to think about. If you're running down the road now, look how nasty these tanks are. But right here, if you can see, there's a couple spots where I just hit with some Neverdol, and it shined them up pretty well. But like if you're running down the road and your tank has that big fuel stain down there, and it's black, they're going to think, oh, this guy's not taking care of his stuff. Let's pull him in and check his truck out, because if he doesn't care about his fuel leaking down, then what else doesn't he care about? So let's open this door real quick, because it's really cool. This was one of the coolest things that I seen. This is a wire diagram schematics right here for this truck, which is awesome that they put it right here, because a lot of times they'll send out manuals with these trucks, but they get lost or people don't know, and then they just start cutting into stuff. But this is right here for this. So that's very educational for anybody who buys an old truck to try to get this kind of stuff. There's a better view of that baby shag carpet.
Oh, you gotta love it. That's like a grandma's basement right there.
Yeah, pretty much. So there's some things I still need to pull all this interior and clean it out really good, because I don't want anybody getting sick that's going to be driving it after me, if that happens. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's, for the most part, it's a pretty solid truck. There's really nothing that I see fit that's too beat up or wrong with the truck. I thought it was in excellent condition. Like, all this stuff is pretty much original. And like these headlight bezels, I was so shocked how clean they were and stuff like that. And this stuff will clean up really well. Here's a spot on the bumper that I cleaned up. You can tell the difference right there, can't you?
Yeah, you can see. I can see your face, and then I can't.
Yeah, because and all I did was took Neverdol to that stuff, and I feel bad for the truck because it was neglected in that kind of area, and the paint was somewhat shiny and looked like somebody threw some wax on it at one point. But there was so much gunk and stuff built up on the windshield seals that when I pressure washed it for the first time, I threw degreaser on it and it stripped all the wax off, and it did this to the paint. But that's okay, because it's going to get redone anyways. And if you can see right here, you can see the darker red. That's probably what it originally looked like when it came out of the factory. So this faded out stuff, I do believe somebody had painted over at one time, because you can tell the difference right there too.
Yeah, it's a little chipped out. Now, speaking of the fifth wheel, where did you guys end up putting it? I was wondering what that looked like. What is it? What is the process of removing a fifth wheel kind of look like?
It's kind of a pain in the butt. So there was bolts right here, and these bolts right here were sticking out right here because this guy right here was in the way. So you can't just throw a bolt back and throw a screw back and put the nut on the back of it. And those are all sitting over there. So basically what I did, and this one was the same way, I ended up breaking that one off with a big breaker bar. And then I pretty much had to climb under the truck and unhook them from the other side. Then I had to have no out here holding the breaker bar because these would spin free. Then once that happened, I pretty much, they had it cut out right here. You see how it's darker around here?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's rusty. So they had this cut out. I basically took a crowbar and I lifted it up off of here. And I pretty much got it to where I used the come along, which is in my box right back here. Here's the bolts right here. So those things are massive. You know what I mean? They're the size of my thumb pretty much. And then to try to get those things off, I'm trying to find out where the camera is. Sorry, folks. It was a slight pain in the butt, but if you don't know what a come along is, this is come along right here. Okay, there's a cable on there. It's a cable system to make things earlier. It's kind of like a ratchet strap, but a Hulk ratchet strap. It's like you, dude. So I pretty much hooked that thing up to that, and I put it right in here, and I hooked it to the fifth wheel, and I just jacked it back, and I slowly pulled it back, and then I threw a couple boards in because I knew it was going to catch right here on these little ramps. And then I was going to drop it onto a pallet because I told the boys last week there was like 5 people down here, and I thought, oh man, if I can get this off, there's enough dudes they can lift it off and we can set it down on the ground. Well, I didn't get that off in time because I didn't have the right socket to be able to pull those off, because I needed to pull them off with my 1-inch, which I had to go to Harbor Freight and pick up. I was talking about that earlier. No, it took me this right here. This guy right here. This can pull off tires, but it has that short anvil on front.
Yep.
Versus this is the one I was talking about right here. See that big long anvil there? That wouldn't go in there. Here's my desk and office.
It's a big house.
Yeah, I'll show you the crib here in a minute. I'll take you for a tour on the crib, but let's go outside and I'll show you where that fifth wheel's at, because I had a pallet set down here. You know, were you down here flipping tires and stuff?
Oh yeah, a little bit.
So you know what those tractor tires are, right?
Those specific tires? I'm not sure.
The big ones the boys flip.
Yeah, I know those tires. Oh,
so we got the bright idea because I was just going to drop it down. I was just going to drop it down on the pallet, but then they were like, "Hey, let's go out and get these tires." So we got it sitting right now outside on these tires. So here's the fifth wheel, and it's kind of dark. I'm sorry, but you can see the massive amount of grime that's on there, and that thing was just cake, dude. So we got it sitting out here right now because I plan to pressure wash it and clean it up. Look at the amount of grime under there. Can you see that?
Yeah, that thing's carrying a whole lot. That thing's carrying decades of gunk right there.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty, dude. But I used the come along to do it, and then I got it back far enough to where I could hook a ratchet strap up to it. And I just pretty much hooked it up to like a beam like this, and then I cranked it back until we couldn't get it no more. And then I brought my Cushman down here because I needed to bounce uptown. And at the time, I was only in Frank, and I didn't want to fire up Frank every time. Being in a shop, having to back it out, open the doors, blah, blah, blah. So I pretty much took this ratchet strap right here. I threw one of those bolts down in here, the hitch. And then I had it on the thing, and I just had it outside, and I just drug it off the rest of the way. But, I mean, we had to throw boards under it and do a bunch of maneuvering because it would occasionally catch, like, right here on this frame rail. So I'd take a crowbar, and I'd just lift it up and stuff like that. And we finally got it to where I felt like it was secure on there. So it's sitting out there right now just doing its thing, hanging out until I clean it up and paint it, and we throw it back on. But I'm going to try to take the fifth wheel actually off of the plate. I do believe there's just a couple pins in the side, and then there's one big pin you can pull off each side, and then we'll be able to just remove it, and it'll be a lot lighter to put on, and then we'll just be able to put it back on. But I need I'd like to be able to have it apart. That way I can really clean it up really nice. So I think that would be good and beneficial, because that thing had to come off because there was so much rust jacking under the fifth wheel. And if you don't know what rust jacking is, basically where rust just plates and stuff like that, and it was pushing the side out. And you can kind of see the divots and stuff right here from it. And I mean, it was literally like a half-inch thick on here, and I'm sitting here whacking it with a hammer, and it's just breaking down it. And here's one of the bolt heads I had to cut off, because we had one that got stuck in here, and it was wedged, because as soon as we got the other ones broke free, it kind of popped up and it wedged that in there. So I had to end up cutting that off, and then I lifted up the other side, and then I just was able to tap that free to go once it got the pressure off. But this is a spring ride truck. It's probably about 155 wheelbase. So it's basically just like my blue truck. And that's what it reminds me of, is my blue truck, riding in it and stuff like that. And with those old tires, it was kind of rough, but it's smooth going down the road when you're just trucking. But when you hit some bumps, it's got a little kickback. But there's some bushings that I can replace and stuff like that to make it easier. But having fresh tires and making sure there's no grease built up in your rims and things like that, throwing your balance off is going to be a lot. And when me and Noah took these off on Saturday, because Noah come over Saturday and we pulled the Daytons off, the old Daytons, there was a bunch of mouse crap and nests back up in here, because there's a little bit of space right here. I'm trying to get the camera to where you can see that, right?
Yeah.
Right there, that space in there where I can stick my hands. Those were full of like old carpet, and it wasn't that shag carpet. It was like a gray color. So we took them off, and I cleaned all that stuff out, blew them out with the compressor and whatnot, and made sure that they were clean, because that's going to throw your balance off. And that's probably why I couldn't go over 58. Not to mention the tires were super old. Let's go back and look at those really quick, and I'll show you those old rims and tires that we're going to try to sell to somebody that might be able to use them around their farm or something, you know. So they're all sitting right here, all 8 of them with the spacers. And let me see. You see how this is split right here?
Oh yeah, in the rim.
This is what you call a split rim. So there's a tube in there, and these split rims and tube tires are only supposed to be at like 85 psi, maybe 90. And these things were like 110 plus. So I'm like, man, no wonder why these things are rock hard. But being so old, they could have blown any time. And that's not what I want for these guys. I want to make this truck as safe as possible for anybody that's going to drive it, or anybody that's going to be on the road riding next to it. You know, you don't want to endanger anybody else, because the industry, not to mention just the interstate, inner city, wherever you're traveling, is dangerous because everybody's on their smartphone. So put your phone down, pay attention to what's going on, and drive until you get to where you're going safely, so you're not endangering anybody else. But
I plan on being one of the people who gets to drive that thing, considering
what, do you have restrictions?
Oh no, absolutely not. My grandfather would have come back from the dead just to
Choke
put
you?
me, just to choke me out if he ever found out that I ever got a CDL with an automatic restriction. Yeah, he
Nice.
would
Have you ever drove anything this old?
Nothing that old. I've driven a 2018 W9. That's an 18 speed, but never nothing that old.
Right. But well, the difference between this and that is the transmissions aren't the same. But this is, once you drive it, if you know how to float gears and stuff like that, you'll be fine. You know, it's just for somebody who hasn't drove something like this, I wouldn't want them just to jump in it and think they were okay to take it on the interstate, because if you get stuck in like Atlanta traffic and you got to push that clutch in, because that clutch is not as easy as what a 2018 W9 clutch would be. I can tell you that much right now.
Yeah, that's why. Why do you think I squat so much?
I know. You'd be fine, but I'm just saying, the regular person thinking they're just going to jump in this and drive, their leg is going to be super sore when they're done. I've been doing this for 10 years almost with trucks like this, saving them and driving them. Not only that, but working them. So here's our new rims that we got. I got some mats for when we get to install them. little bead juice over there. I need to pump the tanks out of the diesel fuel out of the tank. So I got a little transfer pump right there because Evan's cousin's going to come this weekend and polish them. So Noah just picked me up like a 30-gallon little drum here. I can dump the rest of the stuff in because I've been feeding the salamander with the diesel fuel out of there because that's what's been keeping me warm when it's been cool here, because it has been cool. But here's the steers. You see the difference in that shine for that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one
Huge.
I just hand polished with Mother or Neverdol, and it like shined up that much. So somebody wasn't doing the little things to keep this pretty, if you will. But here's our brand new drives. So I got a matching set of Ironman steers with the drives, all the same Gen 2 eco-friendly tires, and these are all 2025 DOT. Right here, 2725, right there's your number. So I'm getting them hooked up, and then most of the parts and stuff are just right over here, and some little shelving that they set up for me. And Noah got these out of the back shop over there. That way when I go to paint it, I can stand up on that versus a ladder like I did when I did Frank. And if anybody's watched my YouTube, they know, they watched that video where I painted the chalk. I did everything outside. It was my first time doing it. I don't think it turned out too bad for being my first time and working on body and stuff like that. Yes, there's some, mishaps here and there, but this truck is called the Frankenstein, right?
Not supposed to be perfect. Yeah.
It is not supposed to be perfect. And I was up in the office telling Evan how I was scraping the grease and stuff out of the truck. He says, we're really not concerned about that. I say, hey, bud, I'm going to put my name on this truck. People know that I'm fixing the International. So I'm going to make it as perfect as possible because I'm not spraying paint over that stuff and then having that, as soon as you pressure wash it, it's going to peel off. And then somebody's going to climb under there if they have to work on it someday and be like, who's the hill jack who painted this truck? Now, guess what? My name's going to be on there somewhere probably. So it would be me. I just want to do it as perfect as possible. But he said it doesn't have to be perfect. But I'm kind of meticulous with things. No, nothing in life is perfect. So I'm fine with how it's going to turn out. It's going to be cool regardless because it's going to look way better than what it does now. Besides that, the frame isn't really too bad. This is all just surface rust on these spots and stuff. So there was really no concerns. The only thing that my buddy climbed under it, that's a mechanic, when I was getting the tires changed out at the shop, this was broke right here. So I got to track one of those down. But me being a YouTuber and putting stuff out on YouTube, I have some people that reach out to me that says, hey, I know where trucks like that are at. So it's very good to have connections in this kind of realm when you're doing this, because the regular guy that just jumps into this is going to be chasing his tail trying to look for stuff. Fortunately, I got some friends in low places, if you will, that just said, hey, I know some people, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, let's
Ralph was asking how big the side boxes were.
In here?
Yeah.
They're actually pretty decent size. Let's go over to the other side because the lighting might be better. But oddly enough, when I was taking off the hand grips and stuff like that, this guy right here was just spinning on me and ended up blowing out. But the side box is this big right here, and the other one is basically 2. But now if you look up in there, you're in the cab. You see how that is right there?
Yeah, you got that
There's
space.
Open space right there. And they're not too bad. You can hold some tools in here. Like if I was going to work this truck, I would probably do the same kind of thing I would with Frank. Hopefully that was a good enough view for you, Ralph. Where I have this little toolbox on the back of the catwalk, kind of like where that wet kit was, except for I'd shove it forward because, you only have so much room with a fifth wheel that does only slide right there. And it's basically stationary because of this right here. Now, if we were going to slide that back any, we would have to cut the rest of this out, drill another hole somewhere in here to be able to slide that back. But that fifth wheel does slide. It unlocks because I slid it earlier because it was slid all the way back. And when I was trying to rip that thing up with the crowbar, all the weight was on the end. And boy, it was funny when I had Noah and Reed out here and I had it back here. I had a couple boards shoved on them. I said, go ahead and lift up, see how heavy it is. Because they said, how much you think this weighs? I said, I don't know, probably anywhere from 800 to 1,000 pounds. And then Noah lifts up on it, then Reed lifts up on it, and he's like, yeah, I think we might be able to do it. Let's give it the college try, Noah says. So I'm like, okay. So I get it to where it's setting on boards all the way, and they can kind of get their fingers up under here to lift it, and they both go on the other sides, and they try to crank on this, and Reed's like, there's no way we're lifting this. I'm like, oh, man, I'm watching you lift all the time and do sets over there. But see how I got this box right here? That's where I carry all my tools because I don't have a ton of room in my side boxes either. So that's what I do with my truck. And, you know, it's just a small box that I got from Mighty Products they sent to me. And then I've got a bunch of stuff in there that I need. The truck parking club right there. So, yeah, Frank's just enjoying the time being in the shop and not being outside in the weather sometimes. It's really not too bad down here. It's been getting cold at night, but it's rained a few days. Other than that, he ain't complaining at all about anything.
Let's go. So, I mean, it looks like I cannot wait to see the finished product in this truck, especially looking like Tiny Trucker Tim with that paint job. Now,
Yeah.
You said it's definitely going to be at Matt's. Are you going to be at Matt's there with it?
I'm driving the truck to Matt's. I already made it clear to Evan I'm the first one driving the truck to a show. So I'm driving the truck to Matt's. Sorry if anybody thought they were going to drive the truck to Matt's, but I'm driving the truck because I want to make sure that it's good and everything's okay. And yeah, the truck's going to be at Matt's. My goal to get the truck done, and I know this sounds crazy, is by Valentine's Day. I want to be done with the truck by Valentine's Day because I want to just be done with the truck. I have a strict schedule. I'm gathering and doing everything I have to do to make sure that it's done right. First of all, like I don't have to worry about working and running my truck at the same time if I was building one at my house like I've done before, for the financial reasons of I've got somebody that is awesome that is taking care of all that for me. So that's always nice. And I'm just going to just keep grinding on the truck. I'm honestly working from like 10 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night on the truck. And then I'll order food if I need to. I'll sit up there and eat it and watch in the clubhouse and the TV for a little bit, come back, take a shower, get in a bunk and pass out. And then I'm not a real heavy sleeper. I might sleep until like 5 or 6 and then I'm up, and then I just kind of got to have a few hours to get my body going because standing on concrete all day isn't good for your body or fun. Laying on concrete all day isn't good for your body or fun, or sitting on your butt on concrete isn't good or fun for your body. So I have to have a few hours to kind of wake up and get my bearings going before I go. But then once I start going, I'm going. And then occasionally some people will pop back. Like Reed Noah will come back, check on me. Reed will do some shoots, you know what I'm saying, and get some footage and stuff. And then once in a while, somebody will pop in with a driver or something, and I'll take a little break and chat with them. But I mean, if I need to stop and sit down and take a break, I will, because I'm not just going to sit there and kill myself, because I do have like 2 months to get the thing done. But I also would like to get it done sooner than that. That way, if for some odd reason I don't like it, I can fix it, you know?
Yeah, give yourself plenty of time. Yeah, I heard that about standing on concrete. I remember, working in a warehouse, I was wearing steel toes, like walking around. The only reprieve I got would being on the forklift. But you're basically, especially inventory stuff. Yeah, when you walk around on just like concrete floors for 10, 11 hours a day, it starts to catch. It rattles right up your spine. So that's good to hear.
It hurts, needless to say, and I'm glad you guys got that workout bar, because I can go grab that thing and just stretch out and let all my body go down. And if I'm smart, I'll pull that you guys' thing down, and I'll put my feet on it and I'll just pull. That way it just gives me a nice stretch. And I do that at least once a day. I seen Reed doing that. I was like, yeah, that's a really good idea. Usually I just grab on the handlebars of Frank and I'll just sit there and tug on that and just hold myself up there to where I feel like I'm getting a little bit, and, you know, I'll do what I have to do. I can take as many showers as I want to if I get dirty, because there's a shower back here for me. So I don't really have any complaints.
Let's go. So, this journey as you're building the truck, only because I don't want to take up your whole night. You got work ahead of you. People are able to follow along on your YouTube channel, as well as some of our channels. But you've been regularly posting about this stuff on Facebook and YouTube. Where can the people find you?
Just Google Chad Keegan, or look on Chad Keegan for Facebook or YouTube. Just Chad Keegan. My blue truck will show up as my profile. But if you Google me, and it'll come up, and then there's multiple videos. If you Google TransStar 2, this will probably come up. If you Google Kenworth K100E, Frank will probably come up. He may not be that color. He may be green and black. Or if you Google Kenworth K100, my blue chuck might come up. You'll probably see my ugly mug in one of those, but it's what it is. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole playlist of from the time I went and looked at this truck till the time I brought it down here, that I just dropped the video yesterday, that you can see the progress now. I'm not sitting there shooting everything because I am getting paid to do this. So I don't really care about what's going on with the camera, but what I'm doing is basically giving updates at the end of the day. I'll give an update at the beginning of the day and talk about what my plans are. And if something comes up to where I think it's important that people need to see, or it's like when we were pulling off those Daytons, I'd never done that before. In their spacers, let me go grab one real quick. This little spacer right here, let me find the camera, is basically what wedges in that rim, and it holds that rim in. Now, if the stud goes right through here and the bolt's on back here, when you take that bolt off the stud, you need to keep that to where it's not all the way off, because the spacer is wedged up in there and jammed. You have to hit this with the hammer, and this thing will shoot back at you. So basically, it was a learning experience for me and Noah, because Noah really doesn't have any experience working on big trucks at all, but he wants to learn. So I'm here to teach him. And that's why I wanted to be able to come down and do this, so I could teach those guys. Now we're going to mount those tires on those rims. Another thing I've never done before, I peeled a tire off with spoons and patched a hole and then put it back on and filled it up. But we are going to mount those. And I do believe I'm going to get Evan down here to do it too. So me, Reed, Noah and Evan are going to be mounting those on the tires, on the rims, and then at a later date, I'll throw them on the truck. So,
dude, let's go. It's a work in progress. You got me more excited. I haven't been this excited for Mats since last year. So
yeah,
man,
I'm going to be hanging out with you guys in the booth out there, and I'm going to be bouncing around Mats, because there's another truck that I went to Arkansas. I'd never met the guy before. James Pretty, he did YouTube. I did YouTube. We both had K100s, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I just bought this truck. I want you to come. I need your help." I'm like, "Man, I don't know if I can." Arkansas's 13 hours away from my house. My wife's like, "You don't even know this guy. You're crazy." Absolutely not. And I said, "Come on, baby. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I've got to do it." So I packed a bunch of tools in a car, and I drove 13 hours to help him save that truck. And we were there for probably 2 or 3 days more than we were supposed to be, because they ended up getting sick from trying to clean out a squirrel nest that was in the front of the between the grill and the fan that was just packed full of nuts and stuff. And they ended up both getting sick. And my wife's like, "You should just come home, blah, blah, blah." I said, "There's no way I'm leaving these guys with this truck. They're sick. I've got to make sure we finish the job and get this truck back. And then I'll come home after that." And that's exactly what I did. And that's exactly what's going to happen right here, because, it's just what it is. I'm the type of guy, once I start something, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to do it the best of my ability. Now, somebody had asked on my YouTube channel yesterday, he commented from this stuff. He says, "I've been around big trucks all my life. How did you learn all this stuff?" Because I'm not a certified mechanic. I've had no mechanically training in my whole lifetime. I said, "Dude, I bought a truck because I wanted to learn. I used that truck as a tool. It came with the owner's manual. So I was able to go through that and read things and find things out about the trucks. Before I bought the trucks, I didn't know how to adjust manual brakes. Did you? Nobody ever taught me that stuff. When you go into a shop and you have your truck serviced, if you are a company driver and you send your truck to a shop for a PM, they do everything, and you just have to trust they do it. Okay. I don't trust a lot of people. So I bought my truck because I wanted to get my hands involved. And I'm never going to learn anything by taking and paying somebody else to do the job. Now, do I know if they even did the job, or did they just do the job and said they did the job? Or maybe they cleaned up some grease and said they fixed it. I don't know that, but I got this lump sum bill that I got to pay for now. And then I got to go back out. And if I have a truck payment, I could be in trouble if I have a huge bill. So why not learn how to do the stuff? Because that's my truck. That's my responsibility, So that's why I do the things I do. And he's like, that's extremely, plus there's YouTube, there's Google, there's all kinds of ways for you to find stuff out. There's forums online that you can read through when you have problems with your specific truck that other people had back in the day. So it's it's good to know that kind of stuff. It's just common sense. It's nuts and bolts is what I tell people. You're taking one thing off that's broken, you're putting the thing on that's new, that's supposed to work. And if it doesn't work, sometimes stuff happens and you have to go out and get that part again. But I like doing old trucks because it's always a challenge for me to take something apart I've never done before and put it back together and see if I can do it right. You don't challenge yourself, what are you doing?
I mean, you're preaching like a bit of my philosophy right there, doing new things. And there's some science behind that. Number one, we cover what you're talking about in the newsletter tonight for anybody who's reading about the right to repair, which is something White has been really fighting for. Because like you said, you own that truck, it's your responsibility. And that's a contested debate with this right to repair. And they're trying to do the same thing in states with people's passenger cars. Is we've gotten to the point now. And actually, fun fact, speaking of taillights, in these old newsletters, the old original taillights from my family's company, somebody in the 70s, they were talking about this, saying about how new automobiles were becoming more and more difficult because they want to add safety, beauty, and comfort, all three. But when you try to focus on all three, you lose the vehicle altogether. And the same things happen with trucks. When you own a truck, do you actually own it, or are you just driving? Or like, do you actually own it, or do the OEMs just own it because you can only repair it through the OEM and OEM sanctioned facilities? That was a topic we covered in the newsletter. That stuff's really important. And the idea of, I love what you said, if you're not challenging yourself. I mean, this relates all right with fitness. People talk about time. People talk about 2025. They say, oh, last year flew by. I can't believe it's Christmas. When you are always challenging yourself, time starts to slow down because your brain has to work. When you're in a routine, when you're always doing the same thing, your brain will condenses time, basically. Like, then this is scientific, where it will compress time because it doesn't want to be bored and uncomfortable. So when you're challenging yourself, you're kind of slowing time down and enjoying life a little bit more. Great philosophy.
That's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. Less is more in my book. I would rather drive an old truck that has less things. There's no DEF on there. There's no sensors on there. That thing needs 12 volts, diesel fuel, and fluids, and that's about it. And an ignition that works. And other than that, it's fuses or breakers. My buddy tells me, I said, what's the hourly rate at the shop now? He says it's $150 an hour. $150 an hour. If you don't know how to change a light on your trailer, that's $150 you're going to pay them, because it's going to take them 15 minutes to pop that thing out and change it. So you might as well figure out how to do it. You might as well pick up your phone that you're going to be on anyways and just Google the stuff. It's real common sense, which unfortunately in today's world and society with smartphones and all the technology, people lack that because they're too busy watching TikToks and stuff like that, and videos of people, throwing crap on each other or doing stupid shit that really doesn't matter. But what matters is paying attention and knowing what you're doing, because if you don't know what you're doing in life, what are you doing?
Well said. So some guy just dropped in on our Instagram comments. He's saying, because this is the pathway as technology keeps improving with the safety, beauty, and comfort thing. He says he has and this is probably for his passenger car. He has to have a subscription for his remote start on his vehicle, and you can't fix that. Like those are things you can't fix. You can't do it yourself. Can't do it anymore. And that's kind of what they're doing with trucks. That's kind of what the timeline has been. Whereas that is in 1978, and you are still able to fix that. You're like Chad Keegan is still able to fix that without going to $150 an hour, without ordering from wherever, a 3-week back order on parts and waiting for what have you. You're still able to do those things. That's true freedom.
Well, some of this stuff you can't get anymore. So if you don't know somebody who has it, you don't have a local junkyard, you can go pick stuff. You're kind of SOL. So let's go over to the exhaust bracket really quick, because I took all that stuff off. It's over there sitting in my big pile of mess. And this one over here is kind of like Swiss cheese. So you can clearly see that this ain't going to make it. Now, there's no way I would want to throw something up on here and just leave this bad boy like this. So my buddy has bought a place that's down in Taupusa that has a bunch of old trucks and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I get a hold of him and I said, hey, I'm going to come down and pull an exhaust bracket off one of the trucks. Is that okay? He says, get a hold of JP because they're still selling some stuff, blah, 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 that's over on the property because they have a bunch of old trucks. So last Friday, I took a little trip down there in Piss Willie. That's the S10 the boys got me to drive around for parts. And I went and found this. I pulled it off an old Freightliner. It's going to work perfectly. And this is all just surface rust right here. It's nice and solid and sturdy. So it'll be right in there when we do finally get to the process to where we're adding a stack. We're putting the air breather back on it, air cleaner tube and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to look it's going to look so different, dude. You're not even going to be able to believe how good this thing looks. And you know what? We're going to keep it plain and simple. We're just going to put some little bit of Chad Keegan finesse to it and sex it up, if you will.
Now, how is that with the chrome? Is that how you're going to do it?
No, I'm not going to put a ton of chrome on. The only thing chrome's probably going to be the stack, but what I'm going to do is clean all this stuff up. I want it to still be like the classic look. I don't want to take anything away from this truck. I don't want to Barbie doll it up, if you will. I still want it to be like an old truck. I just want it to be classic and still be in its original state of form because that's how it came out of the factory. I don't necessarily go big or go home when it comes to that kind of stuff because I think that the trucks still need to have some of the nostalgia left in them. And that's exactly what I want is for this truck to have the nostalgia and the look that it deserves and needs because it's a cool looking truck the way it is. You know what I mean? It's sitting up here like this. When we took all the tires off and we had it sitting up on the jack stands, me and Noah were just in awe and we're like, dude, this thing looks like a spaceship or something.
Yeah, I mean that you want it to look how it looked when it like kind of came off the lot. That's what I don't like about like they came out with the Bronco again when they bring back these old model of cars. They
Yeah.
they don't look anything like the reason why people loved them in the first place. Like they're plat. Like if they were to remake that truck today and come out with a new Cabover, it was and no disrespect to people who do them, but they would try to make it look like it would look nothing like it. It would be like bubbled out.
Yeah,
It
it
would,
looked like a garbage truck.
yeah, exactly.
Plain and flat and not cool. But this thing is like I've always kind of liked these models, even though I'm a Kenworth guy. Obviously, if anybody knows me, they know I'm a Kenworth guy because every time I post a picture, I got my logo in the background and stuff like that. And I drive two Kenworths, so I'm a Kenworth guy. But I've always loved this style of Cabover just because of the way the curves on it and stuff like that. And I can't wait until it's completely done and you just look at it and you could just stare at it and appreciate it for what it is, not how you tricked it out or what kind of chrome you threw on it. I just would rather keep it simple and just roll with that. And that's why we left the Dayton style wheels on there because it's a cool classic look that you don't see every day. It's different from other things. That's why I have white wheels on my truck because everybody has aluminum or chrome and they're like, why don't you? And I'm like, because I don't like to be like everybody else. If I was like everybody else, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I'd probably be working for somebody upset because of my wages or something, or not be happy with life because I'm doing what everybody else is doing. Why not be different and stand out a little bit? If people don't like it, so be it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, neither is this truck, but we're still going to do it how we want to anyways.
Absolutely. Well said, man. Dude, I appreciate you jumping out. Well, this one will be the last time. We're going to have you come on in a couple of weeks. You said by Valentine's Day, so I'd say maybe in a month, right as you're getting ready to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that would be cool to come back because anybody that's watching this and sees this can follow me on YouTube and watch the process. You can check us out on Facebook, go to the Truck Parking Club. They're putting videos out too, so you can watch their perspective and view from it because these guys aren't truck drivers. They're not mechanics. They don't know what to do or what's going on some of the time. So I'm teaching them and I'm bringing them along with this journey and I told them when I first got the truck down here that Saturday, I said, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity and we're going to have fun doing it. And you guys are going to learn a lot of stuff. And I'm like the crash test dummies from back in the day. You can learn a lot from a dummy. So.
Absolutely. Well, dude, Chad, I appreciate you coming on, giving us the update of what's going on. We'll circle back in a month. And for those of you guys tuning in the Clubhouse Live, yes, please follow along, see what we got going on with the Cabover. And as always, we work with gentlemen such as Chad. He's a great friend of the company and what he's doing and what he's teaching. What he's teaching. The staff members at Truck Parking Club. He's a phenomenal guy. Chad is a guy who wants to, I mean, as you can tell if you've been listening to him talk for the past hour, I mean, this is what kind of drives him, and this is the kind of people we team up with. People want to leave the industry better than they found it. So as always, guys, if you need truck parking, you can go to truckparkingclub.com. Use that promo code Keegan20. It'll get you $20 off your next booking. But with that, guys, follow along on the Cabover journey. We'll be back next week. Stay safe and hammer down.